everyone! So in this video, we're going to be looking at the parts of a single reflex camera, or also known as an SLR camera. Let's get to it. Alright, so this is what a basic film camera kind of looks like, and all of these cameras are they might be in slightly different places or look slightly different, but these are the basics of an SLR camera. So we have a lens, all right. We have a focus ring to get your photo in focus, and we have an aperture ring which changes the aperture of the lens. We'll get into aperture in just a bit. So on the bottom side of the camera, we have a battery cover. Now the battery is what powers the meter that's inside of the camera to let you know if you have a good meter reading or not. We have a tripod mount, and then we have a rewind release. So when you're done shooting a roll of film, basically when you get the film in there, it's the film is moving across the back, and then once you're done, you have to rewind it all back into the original canister. So holding this down lets you do that. All right, again, this is a different view. We have the focus ring and then the aperture ring. We have the rewind crank. So when it's time to roll that film back into the canister, that's what you use to really, roll it back in. We have the shutter speed dial, which is, this is where you set the shutter speed you want to use. We have the film advance lever. So this is basically to move the film over so you can take a new fresh photo. We have the ISO setting. On some cameras, it is referred to ASA, like on this camera. And we have to set this right after you get your film in there. You want to set it. And this is really to help your meter reading be correct. Then we have the shutter release, which you actually hit to take the photo. Now you'll notice there's a little circle in the middle. If you use a shutter release cable, this is where you attach the cable. You basically screw it in, and then it lets you hit the button on the cable so that you're not actually touching the camera. This is really useful for when you're doing long exposures. Now, if none of that makes sense right now, don't worry, we're going to get into it. All right, now here we have the inside of the camera. We have the film spool. Now this is where you're actually going to place your film cartridge in, and then you pull the little bit of film out in order to put it into the take-up spool. So as you're taking a photo, the film is moving across and winding up into this take-up spool. And then when you're done, that's when you rewind it so it goes back from the take-up spool back into the cartridge or canister right over here. Let's see, the flash hot shoe, that's where you would put a flash on. The viewfinder is where you look through to see the photo you're going to take. This is the actual shutter, so this is the part that's opening and closing when you're hitting that shutter release button. Now right over here we have what is the aperture, which is the opening of the lens, and then the iris are the little blades and such that get bigger or larger with your aperture. Now something that's kind of cool about SLR cameras is that when we're getting ready to take a picture, before we've hit the shutter release button, the light is coming in through the lens and there's a mirror inside, and that mirror then reflects back into a series of mirrors so we can see what we're photographing through the viewfinder. But when we actually take the photo, this big mirror flips up and that light then hits back here, which in this diagram it says sensor, but on our cameras we're using film, so it'd be hitting the film. All right, so that is the basics of the camera parts.